great treat for the 2012 convention program. We are so honored again with another group of good speakers, and you're in for a special treat today as the two Rays, Ray Hoffman and Ray Waylett, from Missoula, Montana, will demonstrate the new way of transporting roses, dry wrapping roses. They've been working really hard, and they have a great background. Ray Hoffman is a master rosarian, a horticultural judge. He's been member of the Missoula Rose Society in Missoula, Montana for 40 plus years and has been an ARS member for over 35 years. They've both grown roses for over 45 years, and he's given numerous presentations to rose societies and garden clubs on how to care for and grow good roses and the technique of showing roses. And our other Ray, I call them the two boys from Montana. Ray Waylett is a master consulting rosarian and has belonged to the American Rose Society and Montana's Missoula Rose Society for over 25 years. He's a rose grower himself, and he's been president and a board member of the Missoula Memorial Rose Garden, and for over 20 years he's been active as a horticultural judge. He judges at least 3 rose shows annually and occasionally judges district and national convention. We're delighted to have him here and enjoy the Hoffman and Waylett group.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucinda. Appreciate it. Thank you. Isn't she gorgeous looking today? Everybody needs a bright light, and today Lucinda has it with that nice hat of hers. Can I help you down?
Thank you. I don't do stairs. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So while Ray's unwrapping one more hybrid tea, we have 6 of them that we brought dry wrapped. I'll go through the material that you really need for dry wrapping, and that's either saran wrap of some sort. It doesn't have to be Glad, but I'll tell you, the trick here is really press this stuff here. Once you seal it with this wrap, you never have to worry about it. I mean, you can turn it upside down, you can lay it down. I always hand mine, I'm an old German sausage guy, so I raised my refrigerator rack up to the bottom of the freezer, and then I just put a tie on them and hang them in there like sausages. And they work slick. When you lay them horizontally, you have to make sure that you should alternate the heads. So before you cut a rose, you're talking about one that you want to dry wrap. If it's a hybrid tea or a grandiflora, you should have a cup slit like this down the side. And normally you can either write on the cup or you can write on a piece of tape the name of the rose and the date, slip it over the top of the bloom to protect the petals, and then you can go and cut it at the bush. When you cut it at the bush, you're going to see the length that you want. If you're going to present it to a show, you're very concerned about the length. So you just go down to where you want to go, and it'll be on the bush. So as soon as you cut it, you put one finger or thumb over the bloom, so that stops the air from going anymore into the stem. And years ago when we first started, we used to take a piece of cellophane and tie wrap and put a tie on it. But since that time, we figure fingernail polish works just slicker than heck. Especially for finger-thumb guys, all you need is that little brush. Just brush it on there, and you're done. It's laying here ready for you to wrap it 5 minutes from now or 15 minutes from now. If you got a crooked stem, you can even put a stick in there to straighten out the stem. Just leave it lay for about 15 or 20 minutes, and these become very pliable. As you can put it any way you want to. And then you come over here and you put a wrap or 2. Some people put 3 wraps. I always do 2. I figured that's more than I want to be wrapped into. So I put 2 of these and then 1 of these. And it comes out looking exactly like this.
Here, like
yeah,
that.
Like that.
Well, first of all, there's a reason you're doing this. You're walking around the garden and...
Microphone, you gotta be next to the microphone.
No, I can do better here.
No,
No. First of all, there is a reason for doing this, and you're walking around your garden 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the show, and you see this beautiful, perfect rose. So you say to yourself, well, that's not going to make it. But if you do this process, you probably will get it there, and it'll be fine. So why not try it? That's the thing. So
Yes,
you
once
have
the bloom
nothing
is
to
spent.
lose.
Yeah. Once
So-
the bloom is spent, it's gone. So there's, you can say, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, man, I hugged the most beautiful rose, but I didn't cut it, so I can't bring it to the show. Now you can cut it and bring it to the show anytime. Yes, question.
Can you show us in the video what you're saying for 2 of these and 1 of these? Show what it is for
One
us,
is
please.
press and seal.
Okay, one is just regular saran wrap, any kind. Don't have to be Glad. Just kind of saran wrap that'll stick and hold. The worst part about wrapping these roses is the foliage. You take something like Lynn Anderson, big leaves on it. She drives you nuts trying to fold it. You like to have 2. I don't have to. Rayma has a partner, but I don't. So it takes a long time. You have to be very careful. And sometimes with a type of Lynn Anderson or even Veterans Honor, which have big leaf foliage, you have to take quite a while to make sure you get the leaves in there correctly. Shape them up towards the bloom so that they don't get all kinked up. And then once you make a couple wraps, then you can finish it off with this Presto. And this is clingy stuff.
What is that? I've never heard of it.
This is called Press and Seal. And it looks like this here. I'll rip it off. Now, this side here is sticky, but this side isn't. And so you just flop it over, lay the sticky side down, and then just cover up your rose with it. And it'll never go anyplace. It'll seal tight. In fact, we brought some up here from Missoula, sealed just like this. And so it works wonderful. It makes it a lot easier. Before they come out with this Presto Seal, we'd have to maybe make 2 extra wraps with just plain cellophane of some sort so that it would stay where you wanted it to. But with this here, you just can't make mistakes. The only thing, there's always a bad to some good. So when you go to unwrap it, you have to be first. I mean, you have to realize that you're going to have to jerk this to get it loose and free. But you can't hurt anything because the rose is still dormant, and you've got the bloom covered with the cup. That's the only area that you really have to be concerned about. And besides, when you take this off, you still have 2 or 3 layers of saran wrap that's covering the foliage and everything else. But and you'll notice when we unwrap a couple of these with this Press Seal on there that we have to jerk pretty hard to get it started off.
You say you brush the end of the stem.
Yes?
You brush
I brush it with nail polish.
with the nail polish.
And you can use color if you want to, but I found out that there's color isn't my thing for nail polish, but maybe some of you gals have a favorite one that you want to put on there, but I use it clear. And not that a color wouldn't be easier to see, but this clear seals real fast and it dries fast. So by the time...
This is all saran wrap, and this is your...
Okay. So when you dry wrap, then you get, what was I talking about? Oh, sealing the rose. It reminds me of a joke. This guy was starting trouble with the memory. Just couldn't remember things anymore, and his wife was getting fed up with it. And so she says, "I'm going to take you to the doctor. We'll see if we can't help you." "Okay, honey," he says. So she takes me to the doctor, and a couple of weeks he comes out of the hospital, and his memory seemed to be working real well. The wife is very pleased. She thinks that was a good thing I did for my husband. So a couple of days go by, and she says, "I think we should have our parents over for dinner. Wouldn't that be nice?" And yeah, he says, "That'll be okay." So his father and him are visiting, and his father says to him, he says, "Son," he says, "what's the name of your doctor?" "Well," he says, it's on a long stem and it has thorns. And his dad looks at him confused and he says, "You mean Rose?" "Yeah, that's it. Rose, what's the name of my new doctor?" So I don't feel so bad sometimes. Okay, so anyway, this is the difference between, this one here doesn't have any presto seal on it, but this one does. So you can see you can't really see to it very easily. But when we remove this one, it's going to take a little bit of jolt. But like I say, you can't damage anything. Since my memory is like that guy I just told you about, I have to be sure I know where I started this. Any other questions while I'm doing this? If not, I got another joke which is really bad. Go ahead. Yes. I got the gal in the back, the blonde. Yes. When I first started, come spring, you get a little anxious with your roses. So I thought, first one I get that looks decent, I'm going to do it. Well, it turned out it was 4 weeks before our show. So of course I'm cutting them 4 weeks, cutting them 3 weeks, cutting them 2 weeks, and then a week before the show. Well, a week, I can guarantee you'll have at least a week to 2 weeks, you'll have 80% success. It'll be just like you went off and cut them right off the bush. You won't be able to tell the difference. They're fresher, they have more effervescence, like you used to just cut them a week before, put them in reefer, cover them with something and hope that when you brought them out, they wouldn't show the bland essence would be leaving the petals. And you could tell it when you were a judge that they weren't quite as fresh as they looked when you first appeared. But these here will look fresh just like you cut them off the bush. And so at 4 weeks, you're looking at maybe 40% of what you might take to a show. It won't win a queen for you at 4 weeks, but it could win you a blue ribbon, maybe. It depends on the variety. Every variety, like everybody knows that grows roses, every variety has its own peculiarities. And so you have to know which ones you can cut way ahead of time, and they'll look just like you cut them a week before. So at 2 weeks to a week, I guarantee you'll get, I cut 36 roses in dry wrapping this year for our show. And I didn't go 3 weeks, but I started at 2 weeks. Because sometimes, the zipper, you get pretty serious and you say, well, I want to have something. And so anyway, at 2 weeks, I had 36 of them, and 80% of them I took to the show. And I don't know if one of them was that I cut, couldn't remember, but I won Queen of the Show this year. I was lucky. And most of the ones that you'll bring to a show after they've been dry wrapped, I guarantee you, and I'm sure Ray will agree, that you'll probably at least get a blue ribbon with them. They might not make the top table, but they'll get blue. Yes?
At what stage do you cut?
All right, that's a good question. And again, it's the variety. Now, most reds have heavy petals, so you can cut them from 1/2 to 3/4. Some of the yellows and pinks, you might have to cut at half. And that's pretty much an experience of what you're feeding them in your garden and what you know about your particular plant. I always like to cut them shorter. I like to cut them at half, and because when you open them up the day before the show, if they look tight, you can just leave them out for a while before you put them back in the refrigerator. Yeah, let them open up. Yeah. There's one variety that I tell this story wherever I go. It's a pink one, and of course, wouldn't you know it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's a gorgeous rose. It's big, and I've always wanted to get it to a show. And every time I get it there, it's always too tight. And I say, I cut this tighter the last time. It should be further open. But one thing about it, I have never done well with it at the show, but when I take it home, it's just glorious this evening. And I'm sure we've all done that, where we've taken we've taken a rose we thought would do really well, and then find out that the next day is when we should have presented the rose show. But
Ray's a little more careful than I am. I usually take scissors and just cut up the side, but you have to watch out for the leaves then, so, yes.
I'm doing in this particular because I look out here and I see there's more women than men, and I know women are more careful than us guys.
We got
So
some questions.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been around here for several years, and we were fortunate enough to win the Queen at Committee National this summer with the dry wrapping out.
Yeah.
Well, 14 days maybe.
Yeah, I won Queen of our show one time with 2 weeks rose.
My question is, they used to have wonderful saran wrap that I could work with.
Yes.
Now it is junk.
Yeah,
What do you use that you find will really work? What brand?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of luck with Glad. What do you use, Ray?
I don't know the brand name, but I usually get a big roll like at Costco or someplace, so you can just, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really good, so it seems to be. Yes.
After you've gotten the roses dry wrapped, then where do you put them? Do you put them?
Refrigerator, keep
Yeah,
it in a box.
the temperature has to be somewhere between 35 and 40, not over 40, and they'll last a long time.
And definitely don't freeze them.
You want to cut this one?
Yeah.
After you cut your rose, do you hydrate them in the bucket before you seal them?
No.
You don't do anything with them except seal them up with,
Yeah, as soon as you cut it, you seal them with your finger or your thumb until you get to. I have a table, and so I just bring them over to the table, and then I put nail polish on them, and then I set it down. And if there's another one, I go out and get it and do the same thing. And like I say, once you have them sealed, your problems are really over, except with Lynn Anderson and Veterans Honor, where the foliage is so large. Then you'll wish that it wasn't quite as large, because when you go to fold them up, why, it becomes Hamperson.
And you just put that rose beneath the water?
Yep.
All right, now, yeah, see that one I just gave him? He clipped it.
I actually cut off probably, well, this one has a long stem
Microphone again.
Shucks. But anyway, no, yeah, you just cut it out underneath the water, let it sit in there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes longer. It'll take longer. In fact, we talked to a lady this morning that said she left it in there like all day, and it finally came out of it. And that's true. Pardon me? That one happens to be Grand Amore, isn't it?
Yes.
These two here, all these we brought down from home, and this one is a Veterans Honor and a Sunstruck, and we just did them this morning, and as you can see, they were pretty well.
See, and this is a little mini here. It's Miss Flippins. You'll recognize it if she comes to life. But you can see, and all I used was a sandwich bag, either quart or this happened to be a quart bag, I think, and just put it in that. And I put this little cup around it, and then I just put it in the refrigerator. And it's amazing. Very seldom do you ever that you will have any trouble with a mini or a mini floor. Yes, question.
You can lay them in the refrigerator or stand
Yeah, you can put them horizontal, and then you should make sure that you alternate the stack so the bloom head isn't on top of another one. You know, kind of fit them in between. And that's why I like to hang in by card. It makes it very easy for me. I just slip them in there, and I can put at least 36, 3 dozen in my refrigerator downstairs. Yeah. Yes. Question.
Yeah, once you cut and seal them, how soon should you wrap them?
Well, you have a lot of time. You know, like I say, when you seal them like that, they become dormant and very docile. And so you can, sometimes like the big foliage blooms that I was talking about, sometimes it's better to wait on those, say 15 or a half an hour before you wrap them up. It's just that it's nice if you could take them, say, like a cool place from out of the sun, you know, and I bring mine down in the basement and lay them on the tennis table down there. And and I can leave them there quite a while without any damage. Oh, I think you could go an hour, but I haven't done that yet. You know, I think the longest I've had them inside in the basement was a half hour before I wrapped them. And probably mostly because this particular one had kind of a, excuse me, a bent stem, and I wanted to see if I can straighten it out because the bloom was very gorgeous. And as you all know, when you cut roses, it's isn't the best one always on the shortest stem? Okay, so I think that'll be plenty for that one, Ray. Maybe not.
I don't know if you had this one open.
I might not. If you know, Miss Flippins is a terror. She'll either look good for you or she'll make you look bad. And most of the time she's made me look bad, but I still like it. There's another one, Ray. I think that one's ambiance. And it's supposed to be mini 4, but mine, that one there was awful small. And I have some on the bloom now, but I wanted to cut it ahead of time, at least a week before, so I gotta find some water.
Ray,
Yes.
would you talk about the temperature of the two water containers, please?
Okay, and this water here isn't quite as hot as it should be. We like it between 105 and 110 degrees. Excuse me. And this here, cold. You can even have ice in here, and we do have ice in here. And what happens with the ice in there, it'll set the bloom faster. Now you can see, let me pull this one out if I can. We just put one in this glass, but see that? You know, when you come up and walk to it, you couldn't tell me whether I cut it off the bush yesterday, a week ago. I cut this the 21st. And yeah, they're just gorgeous. It's unbelievable. Like I say, after 30 minutes, and this is less than 30 minutes because water's nice and cold, but yeah, it's unbelievable. And I'm telling you, that's why when you have a good bloom a week or two before the show, don't let it sit there. Cut it off the bush, dry wrap it, and then you can have it at the day of the show. And usually we cut ours, or bring them back to life in the morning. You can do it in the afternoon too, but I like to do it in the morning if I have a lot of them. This one here is another one I cut a week ago. And you know, this leading lady is always lovely.
Those were probably cut 10 days ago.
These were 10 days ago, these two here.
So this would be first, the first water,
Yep,
very hot.
very hot.
Yeah. Depends on how tight it is, yeah.
Yeah, you can watch it and kind of, if you're just leaving them in there by themselves,
Yeah.
you can watch them just stiffen up and do that.
Yeah, that's right. Because the longer you leave it in there, the more it's going to want to open up. And so if you're thinking about a show rose, you'd like to get to a point where it's about half and then take it out and stick it in the water. And so like that one, that's just about ready to put in the water. I can't see you. Oh, go ahead, there, yes. Oh, good for you. I'll tell you, designers love this idea. They really do, because most of the time, I'm not a designer, but I know some friends that are designers, and I have some friends that want to be designers, and I have some friends that are pretty good designers. But yeah. Yeah. Good, good. I have another lousy joke while Ray's unwrapping that one, and it happens to be a salesman had come home from a trip, and he decided he should buy a gift for his wife. And he thought, well, he'd go into store to the cosmetic counter and thought, you know, some perfume would be right up her alley. She'd like that. So he goes in there, and this woman waits on him, and she says, "What can I do for you today, sir?" And he says, "Well," she says, I'd like to look at some perfume." "Okay," she says. So she brings out a bottle, and, "Oh, this is great stuff." She said, your wife or your friend, whoever it is, will really love this." And he says, "How much?" She says, $50. "Oh, yeah," she said. "I didn't want to go quite that high." Okay, so she goes back and brings up another bottle, and that smelled very good too. He said, "Well, how much is this?" She says, $30. "Oh man," he said, "you know, I really wanted something cheaper." So first thing he does, he turns around, hands him a mirror. Cheap. Now that isn't for us guys. That's for you gals that are single and you have a boyfriend. Us married guys, we're more careful than that. Okay, here's another one with a presser wrap on it, and I like to use a presser wrap because I cheat and only put a couple of wrappings of these on there, unless, like I mentioned before, it's a big leafed rose. But you know, even by yourself, when I first started doing it, I didn't like it because it took more time than I wanted to spend, and I always thought must be an easier way to do this. But actually, when they come out with this Presto Seal, then it became very easy for me, because before that I always wanted to make sure that I had everything sealed correctly. And so the first time you do it, I don't care who you are, you're going to be a little nervous about it. And I was for sure. And I thought, I'm a pro, that stuff don't bother me. But you know, you get a great looking bloom and then you think, geez, I'm going to put it back to sleep. And what is it going to look like when it comes out? So, but you can see the results. It's just unbelievable that you can have a rose like that would have been on the bush, long gone before the show, and you wouldn't even be able to present it for people to look at. Any other questions while I'm doing this? Ray has a joke, but his is a long one, so.
Yeah, it's a
Oh, yes, back there. First lady with the pink. Orange?
Salmon?
Salmon?
Yeah, I wanted to know, how do you avoid puncturing the foliage with the thorns when you push all the leaves up?
Yeah, and sometimes that becomes a difficulty, but you know, at the same time, you're actually not pressing the leaves that tight around, especially a thorny one like Marilyn Monroe, or who's another one, Fallen in Love. I mean, they got thorns on them. You can't even find, the only place you can grab them is by the neck. And so, and those then you have to be careful because you don't want to break your fingers every time you turn it over. So yeah, those you'd have to be a little careful with. But you know, even if you accidentally puncture a little hole in a leaf, the judge ain't gonna be that hard on you.
Yeah, you know how those
if you
judges
tore it,
are.
then it'd be different. But you know, I'll tell you what. You know, as a judge, the first thing everybody knows, the judges. Who's all judging here? Okay, look at all the nice judges. All right, as judges, we know that where is all the points? Is it on the foliage? Huh?
Hardly.
Hardly. No, the points are here. Here. If you throw in 10 points for size, and this was a perfect rose, this would be worth 70 points out of 100. So why are we talking about a little puncture in a leaf? It shouldn't make that much difference. I mean, if they were both equal, then we look at foliage, right, people? Yeah, but if the blooms are different, one is better than the other one, there's no contest. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about having to poke a leaf. Yes, you back.
Does the refrigerator have to be one of those old rust-free ones?
Oh, you mean like the old garden roses?
No.
What?
The frost that doesn't keep the frost out of the refrigerator. The
Oh,
I don't think it makes any difference.
Yeah, you don't
We
have to
use-
have one of them old ones.
We
I mean,
use the regular kind, and it doesn't seem to bother
Yeah.
anything. So whoever came up with that,
well, I think the difference, when they talked about the old reefer that didn't have that kind of a moisture, it was a time when most of us were only putting blooms in openly into a box or a container and leaving the blooms exposed to the inside of the refrigerator.
when you think about it, these are supposed to be dry wrapped, which they shouldn't be affected anyway.
Yeah, it won't make no difference. Just the temperature is what's important.
But between 35 and 40.
Yes.
Now, you don't put it in with food, do you? I mean, but, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You should have your designated Rose refrigerator.
I remove the food out of mine if I have to use the upper reefer, but most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
But
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead.
I'm a little bit confused about when you first cut the rose and you put your finger over it, they this down, then you apply the fingernail polish?
Yes.
As quickly as you can.
Yeah. As soon as you lift your finger off,
No,
you
no,
put
no.
the nail polish. No.
You seal it with the polish or whatever you want to use, actually. I mean, the little
And
handout
up here we have handheld instructions. You're sure welcome to take one. We'd love you to try it. And I'll tell you, there's more encouragement than I had when I started.
As a matter of fact, neither Ray nor I invented this, obviously, but we both started doing it. Didn't even know the other one was doing it till for a while, and we both liked it, liked the results and everything. So we just kept on. Yes.
Oops. Sorry.
If he'd quit making noise, I could hear you. But
Sorry about that.
In a glass of some sort, take it 2 gallon, just like that. 2 gallon. Put the glass down in there, then run a rubber band around the bottom. If you warp them around the top of the roses, so that they don't get caught in something else.
yeah.
And that also gives it an even place to sit standing up.
That sounds very good. I'm going to have to try that.
Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
This one here that he's going to put in.
There's a question back.
This one here that he's putting in water, I cut the 16th of September.
He's unwrapping them. Oh, microphone. This. Oh, sorry. He just unwrapped this one, obviously. So we're getting ready to stick it in the hot water, and I just took the cup off, which is protecting the bloom, and I'll stick it in the hot water and cut it, and then see if it straightens up and flies right and whatnot, and then we'll stick it in the coal. Now there is another thing that you can a little tip. Roses with nice thick stems, especially the neck, seem to work a lot better.
The peduncle, yeah.
Yeah, don't get like a lemon spice that is like a wimp and, okay?
Yeah.
So we'll,
And if you get those weak stem, there are some weak stem roses that are available, and some of them are very pretty, and some you even take to the show. When you get a weak stem rose, then you just have to make sure that you support the peduncle. When you put it under hot water, then until the water gets up to the top of that bloom, that peduncle is pretty much just gingerly going back and forth like that. And if you let it get too far, as you all know, you're not going to get the water up to the bloom. So the thin peduncles, the smaller thin ones, you should make sure that you support them. And that's why I like a 5-gallon bucket, because you notice Ray just hung that right on the lip. And that keeps the peduncle straight enough so that the water will get up to the bloom. Other than that, that's the only thing that you should be cautious about when you bring them back to life.
we have to do one little thing first.
Okay.
Ray forgot his nippers, so we had to borrow these from the lady outside, and who was selling them, by the way. But they are very nice nippers, and these little scissors seem to be really doing the job.
Those are
So-
great for minis, they are, yeah. Okay, question in the red sweater?
How hot is the hot water?
105 to 110 is ideal, because then you don't, it won't take much much time to bring it back to life, and so you can actually hold it there and look at it. Now, that one there is ready to come out if Ray grabs it and brings it out in the cold water. But some blooms, as you notice on different varieties, open faster than others. And if you got a real tight bloom, then you would probably leave it in the hot water a little bit longer so it would develop. But as soon as you cut it under hot water, you'll notice that the foliage starts like they're getting wings. They start flopping like this. And so then when you see that, you should look at the blossom and see whether you want to take it out then or not. Yes, way in the back, a lady with the glasses.
Yes, I know since you're talking about temperature and water and how it affects the life of the rose back, how, if the rose is like one of these coolers like they have in their soul, I don't know if does that affect, does it do something like that? That is not total dehydration in hot water?
Like you want to bring it back to life, say for instance, and like it looks like it needs some oxygen and water up to the bloom. Yeah, it isn't 100 proof, but you can cut it under hot water. You have to be very careful so it isn't too hot. Sometimes just warm water will do the trick. But the hardest part about that is that, like I say, once the peduncle starts bending too far, I don't care what you do, you're not going to bring that bloom back to life. It's just impossible because it can't get the water and the oxygen up to where it needs it the most. Yes, lady in the blue. I'm sorry.
It takes the total dehydration that you do in order to put that at risk, in order to do the hot water.
I didn't quite hear that. Could you repeat the question?
If you go through this wrap business
This dry wrap system, yes.
and you put the length of rose dormant,
Right, it's dormant, yeah.
and so the only way that rose is going to become all right after you wrap it is submerging it up to the bloom in very hot water.
Yes, yeah. That's a necessity. You won't be able to bring it, because what happens with the hot water is that the hot water, as you know, anything steam, any near hot water will rise fast. And so that's the reason why the hot water. It doesn't take it long to get up to the bloom. And that's what
You don't
want.
have to submerge it clear up to the bloom.
No, just that much
inches,
even
3
will work.
inches.
The only reason why I told you I like a 5-gallon bucket is because you can rest the peduncle on the lip of the rim, and you never have to worry about not getting enough water or oxygen up to the bloom. Okay, yes, over here.
So how long will they last after you dry wrap, you put them in the hot water? Now you put them in the cold water, how long will they?
Yeah, good question. It depends on the variety.
That's a very good question, but it seems to us that they last longer than they do if you do it the regular way, just cutting them and putting them in the refrigerator. They seem to set up stronger and last longer.
They last longer because it seems like they're fresher. You can take say 3 days before the show, you cut a rose, put it in water, stick it in the refrigerator for the show. You bring it out, and I just about guarantee you in 2 days, that you can tell that rose has been in the refrigerator. But now, this here, in 2 days, you won't be able to tell me how long it's been in the refrigerator. Yes? I had one over here, lady.
I was involved with the rose show not too long ago that
That's what we like to hear.
herb roses in hot water. Now the blossoms were great, but the leaves looked like spinach that was cooked spinach.
She must have cooked the leaves. Stuck it clear down in there.
Water was way too hot.
I mean, that's all I can guess.
And I've been around at my daughter's place when I went to help wash dishes. That water was so hot I had to pull my hands out, and I said, I was going to help, but I'm not going to burn my hands to do your dishes. She laughed and said, you know, Dad, I'm used to hot water. I said, yeah. Well, that's the kind of hot water she probably put that rose
This
in.
gentleman had a question.
You know, when you take your roses out of the refrigerator to transport them to a show, you might be going all the way across the country. Well, how long, after you take them out of the refrigerator, until you do this process here, how long do you expect your roses to last?
Well,
As long as you can keep
we
them cool.
brought these from Missoula, Montana on the plane. All we did was put them in a plastic box with some ice, kept them as cool as we could. It's just a guess. Now,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
going by a car and you have nice big coolers and everything, you can keep them adjusted,
Yeah.
I'm sure, pretty,
It'll be several days then.
probably.
Oh, yeah. You know, we put them in these bags like this here, and we put about 4 or 5 cubes of ice down there, put this rose in here like this, and then we sealed it up here. And when we took them out this morning, we had some that the ice was still there. Yeah.
Those are florist,
These
Yes.
bags are, yeah. Well, you know, I wanted to transplant them, or transport them, and I was looking, you know, in the old days we used to have those tubes. Remember those plastic tubes? Well, I had some, but when I dug them out, they were all cracked, and there's no way these are going to work. So I went out to this Garden City Floors in Missoula, and I asked her, I said, you have any kind of containers, like the old tubes? And she said, oh, no. She said, we don't have that anymore. She says, I got some small tubes. I said, no, I'm looking for something that I can stick a rose, completely 15 to 18-inch rose into it. Well, she said, the only thing I got is these bags. And she said, they're antiquated. We don't use them anymore, so you can have all you want. So she gave me all the bags, and the sealer too is just a little heat thing that you just plug in, and then you just slap it on here for about 1.5 seconds, and then it seals the bag. So this is what we use to bring them out here. Yeah.
Yes. Well, personally, what I do after I take them out of dry wrap, put them in the water, in the ice water, I have a nice container that I just stick everything right in my refrigerator, and till the show, which is maybe a day or two or whatever.
And I'm cheaper. I use milk cartons, and I stick about 3 in each milk carton, and then I put them in a reefer.
So you, after this, you put that in the refrigerator?
After
Yes.
this,
After that.
yeah, yes.
My first experience with it, and my first experience in any work,
Were you scared?
I was.
Okay, good. I just want to make myself feel better.
I dry wrapped it, not the way you. I had another set of instructions on. I pretty well followed it. It took me longer because I kept having to read, make sure I was doing it right. And put it in the refrigerator. It was a Paul Moran. And it was, you know, I think about 3 weeks before the Rose Show, and there wasn't even a bud ready to open anywhere else. And I put it in there, and that morning I got up like at 4 o'clock, because I didn't know, what to do. At 4 o'clock, I unwrapped it, and I just put it in tempered water. And
Tepid
it
water?
started to open up, got to the show, put it in the vase. It won the top prize in the old garden rose section. One of the girls was so impressed, she said, oh, may I have that? Absolutely do. I said, of course you may have it. It dropped and it shattered.
Yes, does this work with single petal, or is this like lighter rose?
Well, to tell you the truth, I've never tried it with single petal ones because I don't grow single petal.
I think it'll work because most of the time the single petal, as soon as you put them in a reefer, they'll fold up. And so I think as long as you have a big enough cup, you might have to go to a larger cup depending on the size of the petals. Yeah, I think that would work.
That's why I don't grow.
Yes,
They don't
exactly.
come open again. So.
I was wondering if you could maybe do this in reverse now that we've heard a lot about it, and if you were willing to donate one of your roses to be rewrapped and to kind of recap and do it step by step for those who've never done this.
You can have
Sure.
anyone you want. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, could you show me how you take it from the
Oh,
rose
yeah.
and put it in the cup, how you slip the cup?
We will
how
do
you-
that. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you go, maybe you want to do that first, but for a local scenario, if you did this ahead, like a week or two ahead, when would you take them out of the wrap, do the hot water, do the ice water, and then take it to the show? Would you just do that, say the morning of the show or the night before the show?
What you'll find is it takes a long time to do it, actually, so you might want to do it the night before.
Okay.
Or early in the morning if you have time.
That's what I did when I first started, the night before, but now I'm so.
I'm sorry, when you decide which rose in your garden you're going to pick, okay, you pick it when it's at exhibition bloom or a bit before?
I tend to go a bit before.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you take it in and you put it in a bucket of water, and then how long before you start this process? Let's tell
First you cut the seal up, then you take it in and wrap it up.
Oh, so you actually do the seal in the garden?
No. You do the sealing as soon as you cut it.
Yeah.
Right, in the
Immediately.
garden.
Daylight, hopefully, yes.
Preferably in the afternoon when it's no more.
Sure is not. Now this particular, this one I cut the 19th.
Do you have any kind of a
Yes.
sheet?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Don't know if everybody in
Okay.
step by step.
Good. Yeah, we can show you a dry wrap easy.
You know, you said that you should never say the peduncle. That's wrong. I'm sorry. You said you can't say the peduncle. If this is a rose that goes on you, and maybe you don't want to go to the show with it, but if you take a big, like a roaster pan, and put your warm water in that, put the end, dip it under the water, hold that rose underneath, and gently squeeze the bulb of the rose, you'll see bubbles come out.
Yes.
And then you put a plate or two, one on either end. Leave it underwater completely for an hour or so. You can stand that up and that peduncle will be straight up.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
I would like to know the cut you make in the cup. Does that go to the hole that's in the center?
Yes, I just make a cut down here and then take out the center of the hole. Yeah, and then you just slip it on the bloom like that.
Well, then okay, if you open that one again, it looks like it doesn't go to the hole. It does?
Yeah, see?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It goes right to the hole. There's probably a little dent there. Yeah, makes it look like it. But yeah, it actually goes. Yeah. And you don't need much. You just a slit with a scissor, whatever you want, or a knife, whatever you want to use, and then you can always split it enough to get the stem in there. And you like to have that a little tighter here, so it'll stay up on the peduncle rather than want to keep slipping down as you're wrapping it. I like them a little tighter because then when I put them on the top of the bloom, they'll, when I start wrapping, I don't have to worry about the cup sliding down.
Oh, by the way, if you look at these, no comments on how bad the roses are. We had to take what we could get.
Well, hey, yeah, and so when you do the cup thing, some people wrap the cup by itself to protect the bloom, and you can do that. If you're worried about the cup sliding back and forth, that's a method you can use. You take a little Saran wrap, make it wide enough so that you can actually squeeze it down here at the peduncle or at the very top underneath the bloom, and then the cup won't slide. But what I do is I just make a larger swath of wrap. And so it goes about this far past the cup, and then I just fold it over this way and tuck it. And then when I roll, this cup usually stays exactly where I placed it. And so, and you should check. The main thing before, when you put the cup on the bloom, the main thing you want to make sure is that before you start dry wrapping is that you don't have one of those petals pinched in the slit, because that'll damage the bloom and then you'll end up having to remove that petal if you're going to show the rose. But most of the time, there's nothing to them. This is your bush. You just go out there and slip this on like that. Before you cut it, yes. And then you go down to your bush, and I'm right-handed, so I have to have my left to seal it. So I'll go down and I'll grab my pruners down here, and I'll bring this left hand down here, and as soon as I cut, which should be a horizontal cut because it's easier to seal, instead of a diagonal, which we normally do on roses, this should be a horizontal cut. And then when you bring it up, you got it sealed with your finger, and then I just put fingernail polish on it, and after that, I just smile because I say, man, this baby is mine. No, the only rose that changes color in the refrigerator, I don't care how you do it, and I've tried it, I don't know how many different ways, is Mr. Lincoln. Yeah. As soon as I've wrapped it, I've kept it in the shade, I've kept it in the dark. Every time I brought it out, it shows a little tinge of purple. So, yeah. Okay, now you really do want a demonstration on how to wrap? I got 10 minutes. I should be able to do it in 10 minutes.
I don't know, you're pretty slow.
I'm pretty slow. Any other questions before I start? Go ahead. Back to the white sweater. Yes, it has to be dry. Yeah, the bloom has to be dry. The foliage should be dry because you're going to trap that moisture in there when you seal it, and you could get some results that it's not very favorable. So normally, if it's raining, you just have to shake your head. You're not going to cut any dry wrapping today, or until at least you get the water off them. So, yes. Yes, yeah. We're available after the session ends here for questions, and I really encourage all of you to take this card. It's free, it's got the instructions on it, and since we've got quite a few people here, one per family was desirable, but if your husband and wife think that each one of you could do better, then take a card for each one of you. Yes?
You get a smaller cup.
Yeah, you get a cup like this here, a Dixie cup. Yeah, and that's perfect. And then you just put it in a bag like this. Make sure you close it, and you're set. No, you don't have to wrap it at all. Just make sure that you seal it with nail polish, and then with the cup on it, and then just put it in here, close it, and put it in the refrigerator. And I did that with these minis that we got up here. In fact, the one that Ray's holding in his hand, that's all I did. We just cut it and put it in a bag. Minis are simple. For you women or guys that like to do minis, this is a godsend. Yeah, I had a gal in Vegas. How many did Lynn and I cut? We cut 90, we dry bed 90 roses for her the first year I talked her into trying it. And I think we had 35 minis. She has a lot of minis, and they were gorgeous. And but she felt a little guilty, and she only entered about 20% of the rose.
How many minis can fit in one bag? Do you still alternate it horizontally?
Yeah, if you alternate, you could probably get 2 mini floors in here. And if you really were handy with your hands, you could probably get 3 minis in here by alternating. I only have enough courage to do 2. The most I ever put in a bag is 2 minis. But okay, so we're going to have enough time to do a demonstration, you think? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, all right. Let me get this open for Ray. This one here I cut the 24th, so. Yeah, another good habit to get into is when you first start doing these dry wraps. They're both good, nice looking. Which one should I dry wrap?
I don't care.
Which one would you like? Anyway, okay. I'll take this one a little longer, so it'll be a little harder to do. I love a challenge, don't you? Yeah. So we're going to pretend now that we have.
You got a problem already. It's wet.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna ignore the moisture on it, and at the same time, we're gonna pretend like this is sealed. And I just put the cup on it, sealed it, and I'm saying, man, I have it made. Yeah. It's a little wet, isn't it? So I go downstairs to my table.
This side of the warm container, do you indicate the level of the water you have in there?
Well, this one is very full. but
Yeah, it's too full.
Okay, just indicate the level you have it at on this side,
The rose or the water?
the water,
It's about an inch from the top,
on the outside of the butter.
right there.
Okay.
But that's not really a big problem. But
Okay.
Yes, cover the top first. Like I say, I do that because I like to keep the cup about where the bloom is about halfway down the cup. And sometimes it might slip up a little bit, but very seldom it ever goes any lower than that. And you can't hurt it either way. If it goes lower, it's not going to hurt one bit. I didn't hear the question.
Saran wrap or press and seal?
This is saran wrap.
Saran wrap. I don't know if some of you in the front probably saw how wilty this was when we first got it out. It's quite a bit stiffer already, and it'll be even better after it's in there.
Ray, as you wrap, are you trying to actually get the leaves to point up?
You like the leaves to go towards the bloom? Yes, because that way you're pretty much sure that you're not going to damage any of them. This is going to be a little bit more difficult because of the water, but I think I can get most of them in. It might take a couple of saran wraps instead of just, or a couple extra instead of just one. But really, you know, and you get a thumble finger guy like me, and you women with your nice little fingers, you would have no trouble doing this. Not at all. So we're this far. Okay, and this is 2 wraps. And if you have any doubt, you could go 3 wraps. And I notice I'm a little careless here. I got a piece of leaf up here. But you know, you can wiggle these around, and you can usually straighten them back out. But the top ones aren't worrisome. Okay, that's good. So, do I leave air in there? If it goes in there, I don't have any problem with it. It's not going to do anything. Yeah. You can squeeze it a little bit if you want to. It won't hurt nothing. And in fact, it'll help the foliage actually suppress together a little better. Especially the big leaf. Like I say, the big leaf ones are more difficult. Well, I only put 2 wraps on it, and that's normally what I do. Some people put more on there, but I got Presto Seal here. I don't have to worry about sealing it. So it's sticky on the inside. So I'm laying the inside down, or facing the bloom. This is the sticky part here. Okay. And sometimes I go diagonal. You know, you have to have a little variety in life. So instead of laying everything square, I'll lay this a little diagonal. Yes?
Do you have any problem with the thorns piercing the leaves as you wrap them?
Yeah, and that happens sometimes. And like I was saying, since we have, and I haven't had no objection to most of the judges that are here, a punctured leaf is really not a big thing for showing, as long as the bloom is what you expect. So, yeah, and that happens sometimes. But for the most part, as you lay this up, as you notice, the leaves will come out like this on a bloom, and the thorns are right here in the middle. So when you bring them together, you have to really squeeze them to get to the thorns, okay? Okay, and in my place, then I forgot. I usually put tape in here with the name of the bloom, and the date that I cut it. So when you take it out, you know, you get an idea of when you actually cut this blossom and put it in the reefer. And then in my case, I just put a tie on the very bottom like this, and I just hang them on my rack in my refrigerator like that. They're upside down, and I can, yeah, and no problem. Any questions? Yes. They went underneath. At first we was thinking on board, but then we decided, you know, underneath it's colder because you're up here about 30,000 feet. Nothing would melt underneath the plane. And so that's what we did. We had them put them in cargo package and brought them up that way. Yeah. Good question. Anybody else?
Have you ever tried sprays?
Spray? You know, we have to winterize our roses in Missoula, and there's a spray that I fell in love with. It's called Wilt Proof. It's WILTPRUF, and you have to put it on about at 50, no lower than 50 degrees. And so I used to steal my wife's old bedspreads, and I'd wrap my climbers into that, and then tie them down for the winter. With Wilt Proof, I just spray, you know, and I'll cut about this much off of an 8 or 10 foot cane in the spring. And I also like it because I have some favorite roses like Gemini and some of the nice reds, and I spray those. I cut them down to about 18 inches so the wind won't whip them during the wintertime, and the sun won't dry out so much. I spray those with Wilt Proof, and that encourages me to have 6-inch stem come spring when it's time to prune. Yes? Yeah, I thought about it, you know. I have, what is it? Johnson. I have Sexy Rexy, which I'd love to do, but I haven't had the courage to try it yet. And I have Stretch Johnson's another one. And the heck of it is, you know, when you're looking at sprays, you know, the first thing you do when they start coming out, you start cutting out the middle ones so that you have some nice continuity around the bush. And then the first thing you know, it's so doggone big, and you say, how in the heck am I ever going to take care of it? So I haven't had to try it yet. I just haven't had the courage. Say, that would work. Yeah. But look how many hybrid teas I'd have to take out a reefer to put that baby in there. Yes, and how much Saran wrap. Yes. Anybody else got a question? We're about finished here. And I really want to thank you, Ray and I do, for your participation. Good. You know, there's nothing more heartwarming when you're presenting something when you have a lot of questions, because that tells you that people are interested in what you're doing. You can also take one of our cards.